Can you say your name around?
Chris.
Chris. Kavisha?
Kavisha.
Yeah?
Salana.
Salana?
Liz.
Amit?
Rinshu.
Linda?
Andy.
Catherine.
Peter.
Josh.
Tom.
Jane.
Joseph. Heyman.
Dean.
And we're going to go the yes?
Michael.
And Veronica?
Michael.
And we go to Bob. Off you go.
Morning each and all.
Morning, Bob.
It's non-duality we will talk about. Non-duality meaning one without a second, not two. And that's what we point to and ask you to look to see where we point to. So I can't teach you anything. And I can't tell you anything. All I do is point toward and ask you to look and see for yourself. Because when you recognise and realise what they're pointing out is the truth, there's only one without a second. There is nobody who can tell you anything and nobody can teach you anything. It's already that. Another way I put it, not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm speaking to that I am that I am. And that I am that I'm talking about is not the person. It is a separate essence. It's the pure expression of the one. And each and every one of you can say that I am. You know that I am, but most of us have got the idea of being the person attached to I am so-and-so, I am this, I am that. But if you hadn't learnt any words, could you ever say that? So when it tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. That's all that God is a word, a label. Goes on to say, all things were made by Him, by the Word. And there's nothing made that was made. Well, isn't that true? So, we've got words and labels on everything. Not seeing it as it is. As it is, as they say in Advaita, it's Sat Chit Ananda. Nama Rupa, Sat is existence. Chit is consciousness. Ananda is loving to be. Being, knowing and loving to be. Anyone who is not being right now? Anyone who is not knowing that? Anyone who is not happy to be? Well, what are you seeking? You must recognise, and that's what needs to happen, the recognition that everything is that which is discriminated by the word. And the word's not the real. Take the word water, try and drink it if you can. Swim in it if you can, wash in it. The word fire, does it burn your mouth? Can you cook with it? Can you heat yourself? So what's this word I or me? We take it to be the person, the separate entity, the individual. But I'll tell you, the person is not reality. Where does the word person come from? It comes from the ancient Latin persona, the mask. And the mask is a conceptual image. I am so-and-so, I am this. That we put upon ourselves, and without investigation we've believed in the mask, taken it to be real, and suffer because of that belief. Not realising, as they say, it's one without a second, not two. So one essence that patterns, shapes, forms, experiences and expresses as everything. The one life, the one being, the one knowing. So, can you be anything other than that? If it's only the one? And that's the great mantra, isn't it? I am that. And we don't recognise that even, because that's the chair you're sitting in. That's the room you're in. That's the space in the room. That's the tree. That's the flower. We know that everything is that already, but what we've done, We've discriminated with other words, labels, making it into more than seeming one. So when the Buddha called it a cognizing emptiness, we think we cognize or know the emptiness, but we don't. It's the emptiness itself, that pure intelligence energy, that is the cognizing or the knowing. And he made the statement then that emptiness is form. Have a look at that. Emptiness is form. This room's full of forms, pattern shapes and forms. Turned it around the other way and said the forms can be nothing other than the emptiness. So whether you like it or not, you are that emptiness. You are that one. You're not the person, you're not the separate entity, you are not the individual. But we've taken on that belief. That's another term we need to look at. They tell you that the belief is not the actual. Look up your dictionary definition of belief. And the dictionary definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Means we haven't reasoned it out, we haven't worked it out. We take it with belief that I am this person, which we've taken on board when we learnt words. How many words were you born with? And you realise you weren't born with any words. You didn't pick up words till you were a couple of years old. Some of you might have been 2.5, some of you early. It depends on how smart that pattern is and recognise things earlier or later. But see, you are prior to the word. First couple of years of your life without the word, so that means you must prior to the word. And all those words are is what we call mind. We believe we are this body-mind, this individual, this separate entity. Are you the body? Innately you already know you're not the body because you say my body. Don't you say my coat, my hat, my car? You know you're not the hat, the coat or the car. You're not that. By the same token, maybe you're not the body either when you're saying my body. When you investigate it, and that's another thing they point to, that the false cannot stand up to investigation. So nobody's going to do it for you. The investigation needs to happen through each and every one of you. The false cannot stand up when it's looked into. Am I this body? And you say my body, like my house, my car, my coat. You know you're not the house, the car, the coat. What's this body made up of if you think you're the body? When you investigate and have a look, you'll see this body is made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water, space. Just like the elements around you. Stop breathing. See how long you'd last without that breath. Stop.
Take the air and take the space out of the water.
Yeah. Stop thinking. What are you without a thought? You can't negate your beingness. Take the air, take the fire, take the body temperature. Get off the earth. So you realise you're not separate from space. And that space is no thing. Can you find a boundary to space? Can you find a centre to space? Can you find a point where it begins? You'll find there is no boundary to space. There's no circumference or no boundaries. There's no beginning to it. No ending. Can you cut it? Can you do anything with it at all? It is no thing. Not a vacuum or a void, but no thing. And have a look at it. Everything that is the content of space is a thing. Whether you know it or not, you're a thing, I'm a thing, the tree's a thing, the flower's a thing. Everything is the content of space. Space, if everything is the content of space, and space is no thing itself, can something come from nothing? It can't. So whether you like it or not, it is that no thing, or the one essence, that's patterning, shaping, forming and appearing and expressing as everything. You can call it the great perfection or the absolute, or you can call it God, or whatever name or label or form you like to put on it. But it's still that one essence, which for want of a better term I call pure intelligence energy. And the way it's manifesting in all the different patterns and experiences, you must see it's all fashioning in an intelligent sort of a way. It's not just willy-nilly accidental. It's all an intelligence, pattern, shape and form. And it's all a vibration, a movement of energy. The words are sound, a vibration, a movement of energy. The body, the mind. Show me a thing called mind if you believe you are this body-mind. Innately, like the body, you say my body, you say my mind. Who's this my that we're relating to? The me or the my is taken to be this person because we didn't learn the words here a couple of years later, and when we learnt them, your parents told you little Johnny or your little Jean or your little Billy, whatever your name might be, and you learnt I am little Billy or little Johnny. So it's that sense of presence, the knowing that you are, that expresses through the word as the thought I am, that we take to be real. But that I am is not the reality. So that's where people make a lot of mistakes when I am, they're told stay with, Nisargadatta tells you to stay with the I amness. They think he's saying, well, grab that word, hang on to it, repeat it and use it as a mantra. He's not saying that at all. He's seeing that what that I am represents. It represents that sense of presence, the knowing that you are. If somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am. I am so-and-so. You'll put your label on it, what you've learnt, not really to recognise what's in. That I am is the sense of presence. And the presence is not past. It's not future. It's not a concept of time. It is this actuality which is right here, right now. Is there anything other than presence? Is there a past if you don't think about it? And you realise you can't say there's a past and a future. I was in the past, but try and live yesterday. Try and live a moment ago. You can't. It's all presence. Try and live in the future. You can anticipate and imagine what you're going to do when you leave here, but you can't live it. It won't be there until you're living it. And when you're living it, it'll be actual. The actuality is always this spontaneous presence awareness. Spontaneous, it hasn't got any duration. Time is duration. Beginning and end, middle and an end. But spontaneity, when does now begin? It's beginning right now, and even as you're saying that, it's ending and beginning again. So it's got no duration to it. It's all a spontaneous manifestation. But it's all the one essence that patterns, shapes and forms and appears as the many. And that's our problem. We take it to be the many, not realising there's only the one. Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. Anyone who is not existing right now, you realise, no, I'm existing. Anybody who's unaware right now, you'll say, I'm not unaware. You're aware, you know it immediately. Anyone who's not happy to be, well, none of you want to be dead right now, that's for certain. So you must be happy to be. So you're already that. But we hear it, and we still want to go there, a lot of us. We think we need to become something. Or do this meditation, or do this mantra, or see this, and do that, and practice this, and practice that. I will become. But becoming is not being. Becoming implies a future time. And if you look into time, is there a past? And if you don't think about it? And is there a future if you don't think about it? When you look into it, you see there's no past or future without a concept, a thought. So thinking is conceptual. It's not what you actually are. But is there anybody who is unaware right now? You recognise, no, I'm not unaware, I'm aware, I'm here, I'm that beingness. That's another label we put on it. We call ourselves human beings. If you believe in God, you call God the supreme being, something greater. We've got this idea there's something greater than us. When they're pointing to its one intelligence in it, its patterning, shaping, forming, and appearance, everything, we think there's such a thing as a greater being, a God, a supreme being. But take away that idea of supreme, take away the way human. Try and separate your beingness without putting either of those labels on it. Can you? You realise, no, I am this beingness. And being is not wasing. It's not what will be. It is the actuality that's happening right now. And it is absolute. What can you add to the absolute? If you could add anything to it, it wouldn't be absolute, would it? What can you take away from it? If you take anything away from it, it wouldn't be absolute. Well, if you can't add anything to it, can't take anything away, and you are the absolute, who can ever be superior to you? Who could be inferior to you if it's all absolute? And what would you want of the other persons? Looking from that point of view, see, all these concepts you have, we're trespassing into other people's lives and wanting this and wanting that from them and everything, thinking we're going to become something, not realising that we already are that. And they call it ignorance in the scriptures. We think, oh, I'm ignorant, I'm dull or stupid. But it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that we are ignoring what's right in front of our very eyes, always has been, and always will be. The presence awareness, the knowing that you are. It's ignored. And focusing on the conceptual image and believing it. So we suffer accordingly. And it's only me that can be fearful. It's only me that can be anxious. Only me that can be depressed, full of self-pity or unhappy. Me is the cause of the fear, the anxiety, the depression, the guilt, the shame, the jealousy and envy. All my psychological problems are caused by the belief in the me. And look at this word belief. Your dictionary definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact right there, that without positive knowledge or proof. Put your beliefs to that test and see if they'll stand up to it. And you'll see they won't stand up, they'll fall apart. Go down to the ocean and I'll say, get me a bucket of blue water out of the sea. You'd say, don't be stupid. You'll know the water's not blue. It appears to be, and we've taken it blue. Same with the blue sky. Sky is space. There's space in this room. Where's the blueness? There's no blueness in it at all. It's only the distance that it appears to be so. So you see, all these things we've taken to be real and have the belief in, investigate them and seeing they're not the truth. And that's an loud and clear description in the scriptures. Know the truth. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What does there need to be free from? The belief. Belief that there's a separate entity. Me is the cause of all my psychological suffering. And the effects of that cause are me, this, I am that, and all around it. But what happens if I question the me and see it's a fiction? And see that me is the cause, and ask myself the simple question, can there be an effect if it's not related to a cause? Well, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work that one out either. There can't be a cause unless you're relating to an effect. So that's all the so-called karma is cause and effect. If it's not related to the cause, where's the effect going to lodge? And you'll see the false cannot stand up to investigation, and it falls apart under the investigation. And what are you left with? You must be left with the truth. Know the truth will set you free. You're free of this bondage of belief. And I pointed out the definition of belief, didn't I? Forget that. An unquestioned accept. Yeah, I pointed that out. So belief is not the actual. But anybody who is unaware right now, and you know you are aware, so you are that already. So the great perfection is non-conceptual, ever fresh, ever new, presence awareness. Just this, nothing else. And that is absolute. But you can't go around telling everybody you are the absolute. They'll put you in the funny farm. But you recognise and know it for yourself, that's all that is necessary. And the realisation will become very firm. And things will change because of that. You'll be seeing things as they are, not as they appear to be. Or if they are appearing, you'll know that at all. Appearance is not the actuality. You look in the mirror, what do you see in the mirror? You look and you'll see a reflection or an image in the mirror. Now you can't say that image is not there. But go up to the mirror and try and grab the image out of the mirror. You won't grab anything because it's not there. It appears to be there, seems to be there, but when it's investigated, it's not there. It's only appearing. That's the same with this manifestation. All seems to be appearing and real as it is, but when you investigate it, it'll fall apart under the investigation. And in falling apart, where does that leave you? Still present and aware. The concepts drop away, and the recognition, the recognising that I am that. That is what I am. Unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. No preference, no partiality, no comparison. That is. It's not what was. It's not what will be. It is the isness that's with each and every one of you right here and right now. So it's just a matter of recognising, staying with that recognition, investigating if any of the concepts come up, and the false cannot stand up to that investigation. The energy of belief cannot go into it. And that's all that everything is. It's all energy. As Einstein told you, that's all there is. There's nothing but energy. This body is a vibrating pattern of energy. The thoughts are a vibrating pattern of energy. The feelings and emotions are a vibrating pattern of energy. Look at that. How does it function? Thought, feeling and emotion. First there'll be a subtle thought will rise. That thought will stay there. As soon as it stays there for a little while, it becomes a feeling. And that feeling is a sensation. It can be fear, anger, happiness, joy, love or whatever, but a sensation. Keep it there long enough and it becomes an emotion, emotion. You know what emotionalism is? You get talking the anger, the fear, the depression. The E stands for energy. It's just a vibrating pattern of energy, emotion. Moving. The motion is moving. And we believe it to be fear, anger, depression, guilt, shame. And we wallow in these concepts and ideas, make them worse. Makes us unhappy. As Wei Wei said a couple of thousand years ago, whenever it was, he says, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. And he says, there isn't one. Have a look at that and see that it's true. There isn't a self. There's no personal self there. And all the ancient texts will tell you that. There is only one self, the Atman self, the God self, what they call God. They put that label on it. But it's the one self that pattern, shapes and forms, experiences and expressing as everything. As soon as you say myself, who's claiming it? This so-called person. It's myself. Myself becomes the problem. But the one self is the totality, the absoluteness. And things, pattern, shapes and forms that can divide, appear and express. The same thing's happening in nature. And like steam, water and ice, three aspects of the one thing there. First of all, the radiation of the sun will heat the water and evaporate it, so it becomes steam. Go up and cool down, form a cloud that will seemingly obscure the sun. But the sun keeps radiating and it's shining and it's seen through. It'll blow the cloud down away or bring it down as rain. It becomes water again. And then water will solidify and become ice or snow. We call it spirit and matter. And we've got this idea of the spiritual and the material. Not seeing that spirit is essence, like the scent of a perfume. The scent of it is like essence. But the water of the perfume itself has become matter. But it's still the one thing, seemingly solidified. So that is the same with this. The thoughts and things, when they become into the words and we believe in the words, they become seemingly solid. And this spirit, this essence, has seemingly become matter. But you know that. Something comes up in your mind, you think about it, and you're really seeing through it and don't get it, and you say, they'll say, can I do this? Or he did that, and you'll say, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, it hasn't solidified, has it? And you couldn't care less. What about the one I don't mind? Somebody says, can I do this? Or I don't mind. If you don't mind, so what? That happens. But when you do mind, you take a stance. And when it does matter, you take a stance. And we beat ourselves up with the word. Leaving everything as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Go out there, look in nature, get your clue from nature. The earth's rolling around the sun right now. This part of it's facing toward the sun, so it's daylight. The other part's away from the sun, it's dark. Does the earth know anything about darkness or light? Or does the sun know anything about darkness or light? It doesn't. But no, they're not separate. They're two ends of the one stick. We think silence and sound, movement and stillness, we think they're separate, these words. And so, attach to one, fixate on the one and try and get rid of the other. And so in that seeming division and separation, there is always conflict. But leaving it as it is, realise the good left as it is might change and become bad, but it's not going to stay bad forever. It'll turn around and change again if left as it is. But when we conflict with it and fighting with it, we keep it there longer than it should be, and so suffer accordingly. It's not necessary. We do it. Something comes up and I like it. Not realise that everything in this manifestation is transient. It's changing right now, in this moment. There's thousands of cells dying in that body right now and being replaced. Transience. Thought comes up and we like it. Not realising it's transient, no matter how much you love it, how much you want to keep it there, it's going to change. We don't want it to change, so what do? We resist it. Try to keep it there. And don't you realise that resistance is conflict? If you're resisting something, you're in conflict with it. Conflict means you're a fighter with it. You're not happy with it. You're not leaving it as it is. You're struggling with it. Conflict makes you uneasy, fearful, anxious, depressed, guilty. Another word for uneasiness is disease. So there's resistance, conflict and disease coming up. What about the other way? Something comes up, I like it. Well, I don't want to get rid of this one, I want to keep it there. But it's looking like it's going to go away and disappear. I don't want it to go, so I resist it from going. The same conflict going on, resistance again. Conflict and disease. That's what our life is made up of, this constant resistance, conflict is going on. Instead of leaving things as they are, knowing that they change of themselves constantly and ever forever changing, transient, we try to change them. And so we're stuck in this conflict and disease. And that fear, anxiety, depression, guilt, remorse, it can become overwhelming. And the energy of belief goes into it. Oh, when's this going to end and all the rest of it? We do all sorts of things to try and get rid of it, not realising that leaving everything as it is and it changes by itself. That's transient, it's constantly changing. Relax and allow it to be. And be the beingness, not the wasing or the will be, but being. You cannot negate your being. Can anyone say, I am not right now? You know very well that I am. And that I am is being. It's knowing and it's loving to be. So you already are that. We lose sight of it and get stuck in the conflict of the words. And the words are not real. Can be very useful, but they can be very self-destructive. And it tells us in the beginning was the Word. That's where it all begins, when we learnt words. Prior to that, the little child doesn't even know he's born. He's seeing, he's hearing, he's relying on his parents to feed him and all the rest of it. He's hungry, he'll cry, if he's happy, he'll gurgle. But he's not saying this is good, that's bad. It's just a spontaneous, natural functioning. And then we learn words. And instead of investigating further, we stay with the word and learn the language and believe in the words and reinforce the words by going to school and all the rest of it. But somewhere down the track, a lot of us say, this is not going too well, it's not right, there's got to be more to it than that. And so they're drawn to look into some of these ancient texts and ancient scriptures and recognise, they'll hear and recognise what's being said and open up to it. That's why you're all here. If you're happy with the religions, that you're a terrible sinner, you're an unhappy and an unhealthy person, a bad person, would you be looking for anything else? You wouldn't. But you know that's good enough. It doesn't ring a bell anymore. So you look for something else. Have a look into this. You might find the answer there, or you might find it somewhere else. Or this might happen. But the very fact that you're looking into other is a knowing sign that you are not happy with what was as it was. And you're willing to look and see what is. And in that looking or recognising, in opening to it, it'll take you where it's got to take you. And it happens. He says, Nisargadatta says, realise you are dreaming a dream you call the world. He says, stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your concern. Your concern is you love one part of the dream and not the other. He says, love all of it, or none of it. He says, don't divide it, but see it all as it is. Once you realise that it's all as a dream and left as it is, the rest will be done for you. And that's the fact. The life itself will bring about the change that is necessary. It'll take you to where you got to go, where it took me to where it took me, to where I am today. For the first few years there was a big struggle. I thought I could do something about it. And there was a lot of fear and anxiety and depression and guilt and all the rest that goes along with that. But it took me beyond that, beyond the need for further help. And it all happened by itself. And the me was seen for what it is, a conceptual image, an image made up of concepts, mental constructs that had no substance, no reality, and no individual nature of itself. And in resting in that, as it says, let it rest in its uncontrived singularity, or relax into it. And do what Christ told you a couple of 1,000 years ago, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And he says, I am the way, I am the light, I am the truth. Not talking about himself. talking about that sense of presence that's with each and every one of us, that expresses through the mind as the thought I am. Not the thought itself, but that sense of presence. And Nisargadatta tells you that stay with the I amness, not with the word. They're not repeating it like a mantra, with the sense of presence. And there's none of you who are not aware of being present right now. So that's basically what it is. So get into it. Tell us all about it. A lot of you here already know it. You can express it just as well as I can. You might even express it better. If you can, let it out, because some other person having a struggle might hear what you're saying. And it might be what you were saying that'll resonate with them. But that's the way it's been passed on down through the ages. Somebody's passed it on to somebody else. And a lot of them get garbled up, get into the scriptures and say you've got to become this and be that, and you're a sinner, you're a terrible person. If you don't do this mantra or repeat this word, you're going to suffer, and all the rest of it. Just know the truth and see for yourself, and see how effortless and easy it is. So away you go. That's it.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. You might put your ears back.
And we have anything between 27 and 30 people with us today. And there is not that many questions, but there are a couple of comments. I mean, there are welcome messages. A few people say good morning to everyone. And Ram says, this sounds like the Bob of 10 years ago. Energy is so on point. And Gilbert, answering, pointing, naturally beautiful. Trying to grasp it with the intellect fails. What is wrong with that? Nothing. What is what is. And Ram says, what you've been feeding him with, Kat. He likes your energy. He asks me what I'm feeding you with. Yeah, love, of course. Apart from the things that everyone else contributes as well. We got a usually wonderful, fresh, beautiful produce from Organic Garden of Dean, and we have Jacinta bringing soups and broths and a lot of love in different forms. Another awesome spiel, Bob. That's from JB. And Sarah said, thank you. So there are no questions, really, from the online community. So if anyone here has question, pop in the question. If there are sharing... Oh, Kavisha, do you have a question?
I don't know if it's really a question, but just, I think you said something that really struck me. Something like you don't have to try.
Yes.
That was so powerful, because I think all my life I've been trying to be good, or trying to earn the praise of my parents or my teachers, or that you're so conditioned as a child in our society. And so to untry, wow, that's a shock. Like, oh, but I'm going to heaven, aren't I? Or I'm going to, you know what I mean? It's just that
Yes.
striving energy, and how to, and you just say, you don't have to try. And, oh, that really hit me today. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but
You don't have to.
well, that's right. Exactly. Oh, I could untry.
Don't have to try to not try.
Yeah. So, thank you, Bob,
Beautiful.
for that.
Thank you. I tried for many years.
And also with, say the spiritual path, it's filled with that trying energy for enlightenment, or for blah blah blah, whatever it is. Maybe it's just blah blah blah,
Yeah.
but it's that not really relaxing in the state of just be, and it's like around us all the time. And again, you say we're in a dream, so that's a dream of rushing around trying, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautifully said, because yes, that one concept of trying, it really encompasses all the assumptions underneath it, that as it is no good. I have to strive for something to be different, to change, So the rejection of the present moment as it is, rather than embracing. And to reject it, you have to be different and separate from this moment. You're not this moment anymore. You're something in this moment, somewhat offended by it or somehow oppressed by it. And also the trying and the striving, as you said, it is for something to happen, to be achieved in the future time. So not only this moment is no good, but maybe there will be another moment sometime later. But there is no later. Every future moment only happens right now, as imagined. And there is no separation between the I and this field of knowing, the moment. But the trying is this. That's amazing that you actually heard that, because it really contains all the suffering, all the human struggle. I am a human, separate, and this is the world outside of me that I have to negotiate with. And the world is no good, so I have to try and change it. Oh, I'm no good, I have to try and change myself. Yeah.
And I mean, we didn't get much of a chance because we were born with original sin, right?
There you
So
go.
that's it. You were stuffed from the beginning.
Yes.
You know, when you're born, you're born with original sin. Oh, what? I didn't do anything. I'm just a baby. You know.
And what Bob is saying, the original sin actually came when we got kicked out of paradise, when we learned words. So not on the moment of like leaving the womb. At this point, there is no original sin, there is no separation. But then we learn words. We eat from the tree of good and evil. We learn them from parents. And this is no good, this is good, I'm here, world is here. And then the separation get created only when we have enough concepts, enough words. About the age of 1.5, 2.5, depends on the language. Some languages are easier, the concepts grow. And we learn it by imitating everyone around us. So this is the moment of being thrown out from paradise, the knowledge of good and evil, the words, and the sense of separation that comes in the individual life, not in the history. Well, the Bible kind of presents it as if it happened thousands of years ago, and now there are the consequences, because God is such an evil bugger, full of vengeance and hatred, that whatever they did long time ago, we have to pay for. But that's nonsense. That's just a story how it got misinterpreted. Because if everything happens now, even the past of being a child and learning a language happens now. This is the projection back to understand and make sense of the original sin, or of the human condition, of a condition of sense of separation and sense of need to try. But yes, relaxing, the sense of being, the present moment. The moment the thinking doesn't obscure it, that's all there ever is. This moment as it is right now. If there is no thought, there is nothing wrong with that moment. And then nothing has to be fixed or changed. And nothing has to be achieved in future. Those are all thoughts. Without them, there is, like Gilbert was saying, what's wrong? Nothing. I think we have a couple of more comments. So there is, didn't one? Oh, Joseph, okay.
Yeah, that was interesting when you talk about the words, and that came up before, because a friend of mine, sent me something about a video, and it was about gender identity. I never really looked into it, and I never really made much out of it. And then I watched, only a short time, and I thought, I'm not gonna watch that, that's nonsense. And then I was like, actually it's interesting. And then I thought about what Bob was saying, and I thought, that's just another word. If man or a woman, it's just a word. And then because we grow up believing what a man is and what a woman is, then I looked like, when I watched the movie, that redefinition the word, but it's just a word in the end. So then it feels like the definition seems to be changing. Of some man can say I'm a woman because I feel like it, and the opposite. But then when I grew up, with my parents, wasn't a topic, and then I realized they're just words,
Yeah.
and they're just identity, which doesn't exist in that sense anyway. And then I just thought about, it was actually really brilliant to actually watch it then, and then to see, and then I actually understood a bit more about the belief system, because when we grow up, we believed what was then, and that was real to us, and now it's changing because we believed, when I was a child, believe what the word is. Now it's changing. Then you actually notice in real life that change, and then you realize, oh, it's just a word. So yeah, because we have to go back in thoughts to, like, when we grow up, what it was to learn the word. But now actually I could actually see it right now, where they're trying to change the definition,
Yes.
what man and woman is, and then I was like, oh, it's actually, yeah, that's what Bob says. It's like a belief.
Yeah.
And then I was like, really easier to understand and recognize with what Bob's saying. So, and of course they then talk about, what sex is and which sex you have, and what, and a man and woman is different, and then like you distinguish all these differences, but then the belief was different before, so it's just words in the end. And then I told my friend, it's just thoughts. And then I realized, yeah, that's all thoughts. And they're arguing with thoughts, what is like right or what's wrong, what this and that. And actually, can you go to the bathroom as a male? Because if the male says, I'm a woman, I feel like a woman, so I can go to women's bathroom. And all these things happens with this belief system, and you're like, wow, this is just so much conflict.
And so much suffering too.
Yeah.
Because of that strong sense of identity.
Yes.
And a sense of offense, and not being respected or not being seen for who I am, but that's not who you are.
Yes, yeah. So it was really good actually to watch it in the end, because I was like, I'm not gonna get into this. This is like too much back and forth. But then I was like, when I looked at the Bob thing, and I told my friend, and I texted her all these things would come up, but she hasn't time to answer yet. Maybe it was just too much information I gave her, but it was for me actually good to watch it in the end.
Yeah, beautiful. You can see, like Jesus was saying, see them in all thy ways, and you find them under the stone you turn. When you know what to look for, you can actually see the pointer in absolutely everything.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that was
Nowhere
basically
where it is not.
Yeah.
Any doko, any situation, bird singing on the bench or anything. Yes.
I think it's Paul who says, when I was a child, I acted like a child, or spoke as a child, and behaved as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. It's the same with this. When we're locked into belief we're this separate entity, we act that way. When you see through it, you leave them behind.
Yes, I have a comment here from Julia. She says, just noticing that trying is seemingly happening seems to put an end to it and facilitates just being. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, it's a good pointer. Notice the trying, and that relaxes, because you're noticing already from the point beyond the trying. Will says, good morning from Heart to America. I love these talks on YouTube. This is the first time live. Welcome, Will. I know I'm not the body, but would it be accurate to suggest that I'm part of the energy run through this body and everything? Part?
No parts.
Yeah, you are a totality of it. Yes, so the body is also included. If you are the pure potentiality of that energy to express as absolutely everything, body is not excluded. It's just that when people identify with the body, that I am this body or I am this body mind, the pointer, you're not the body, you're not the mind, is really just to shake that position a little bit. Because ultimately, you all and nothing, everything and nothing, because everything is nothing. So that's really just one potentiality that expresses as every form. You could say part of the energy, but really even the part, the concept of a part, brings up the separation. I'm this part, you this part, we all parts. There really is no division unless the thought comes and divides it. Without the thought is just one unfolding in that open field. And Julia also says, my real pronoun is that.
That'll throw us better in the word. What? You're not a he, you're not a she, you're that.
And she also says, she answers to Will, parts imply division. You are the omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient energy which appears as everything, but is not a thing. Please join us on live Zoom tomorrow. The link on Bob's website. Yes, Will, and everyone. There is 3 Zoom meetings happening. One which is on a time that is appropriate for other hemisphere. I mean, one is for Americans tomorrow around about this time, a little earlier, and the 2 others are for Europe and Australia and Asia. So please check it out on the website. And that's it for the comments. So anyone would like to share something?
Can I take a photo?
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone else would like to ask or share or comment?
I just was thinking about what Kavisha said about, growing up believing that we were we were already damaged from the very beginning, growing up in Catholic school, etc. And, believing we were, bad people trying to be good. All stories, none of them real. But when I first came here, it was very hard to comprehend what Bob was saying. And of course, the nature of the mind is it works in the pairs of opposites. It works in parameters of me, you, happy, sad, yesterday, tomorrow, etc. That's the way the mind works. It's a very clunky. It's also incredibly clever, the way the mind works in the pairs of opposites, but that's all it can work in, the pairs of opposites. So, and all of a sudden you're confronted with this idea from Bob or from the great teachers of thousands of years back that you're not that. And the mind goes into a bit of a tailspin trying to figure everything out, and it can only figure it out within those parameters of the little finite mind. You're not the mind, but you bloody think you are, because you've been grown up to, you've been brought up to believe you're separate. You're brought up to believe you're the me, the individual, the separate entity. And then someone comes along, and like Bob or Nisargadatta or somebody else who says you're not that. And it's like, oh my God, the mind just goes, woo, hang on, this can't be right. And it goes into this spin trying to figure it all out. And, and I know for me, it was very hard for me to see there wasn't a me, that I didn't have to do anything, that no effort was required, that all I had to do was understand that I wasn't a separate entity, that I wasn't an image I had about myself, and that there were no answers in the mind, and yet all my life I'd been using the mind to find answers. So it was very confronting initially. And yet everything that Bob told me in 1988 happened, which was I didn't have to do anything, and that the truth would eat away the lie. And that's what's happened. But the real hook for me was understanding that I didn't have a choice. I never had a choice. I would never have a choice, because there was no choice maker. There was no me, no separate entity, And so, 30 whatever years ago, years later rather, Everything's happening as it should. My life is effortless. There are very few hooks anymore, and the truth has eaten away the lie. There's nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to do it. It's just spontaneous life evolving, you know, and things come up and they dissipate, and they come up and they dissipate, you know. But I've never done anything.
Beautiful.
Sorry? I didn't do that.
It just came up.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Nice. Well said, Jane. Beautiful. That reminds me of a song.
Oh yeah, give us a song.
What a coincidence.
Maybe that mic can come closer.
Maybe you can.
Oh yes, please. Lovely.
Yes.
I've actually been a mic stand at a gig.
No,
Does it pay well?
No.
Spring comes and the grass grows by itself, sitting silently, doing nothing. Spring comes and the grass grows by itself, sitting silently, doing nothing. Spring comes and the grass grows by itself, sitting silently, doing nothing. Spring comes, you can sing it if you want. And the grass grows by itself, sitting silently, doing nothing. Spring comes and the grass grows by itself, sitting silently, doing nothing. Spring comes and the grass grows by itself, sitting silently, doing nothing. Spring comes and the grass grows by itself, sitting silently, doing nothing.
Just like us.
And we have a comment here from Jacqueline that just before the song Spring Out, I love that truth will eat away at the lie. And yes, as Jane just commented, the life grows the grass just like the life. And I love when Bob is actually elaborating on it, how the life is breathing us. The life is beating the heart. The life is the choice maker. The decisions arise out of nowhere. We don't know our next thought. We don't know our next decision. There might be some planning, churning going on, but what will spring to action is completely unknown because it is inseparable from the environment. One thing changes and the whole machinery that is not separated will update the response. The decision making, the heartbeat, the growing the hair, the thinking, the seeing, everything, growing grass, raining the rain, everything happens by life. So actually just going about the day and seeing how you really do nothing, how things are actually unfolding in that inseparable way. The body and the world, like Bob was showing, the air is exchanged in the body, the water, the matter, the heat, the temperature, all of it is just one unfolding. And the thinking within it is one unfolding. There is no thinker, there is no me thinking. I can't get anything wrong. I can't take a wrong decision or make a wrong choice because I am not doing it. The I is illusory, imagined little self that takes credit for it. It's just a mechanical sort of a program that is written in a narrative. As the life unfolds, as the life beats the heart, pumps the blood, creates the images, interprets the whatever is seen, perceived, or whatever is thought, there is that little program going and taking credit. This is me, this is my thought, this is my decision, this is my heart, this is my hair. That's just a little narrative software that is completely benign if you don't believe it to be true. But if you think you are somewhat hidden within that software of narrative, oh my goodness, that's the beautiful, easy recipe for suffering. Because now you're limited, now you're on the mercy, on the positive thoughts, or not negative. And even if you manage to get your successes and get your desires, how long will they last? So the mercy of time, of future, and the past, and the traumas, and everything that can happen there. And Will says thank you to Julia and to everyone. And Gilbert says, you cannot see the wind. Yeah, there you go. Same for music. We see and feel the leaves moving in the trees. We see and feel the music, even though it remains invisible. Vibration acting through everything around it. That's that. Anyone would like to add something or
Any questions?
say, share, comment, questions? No. Pick the card. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, Dean suggests to pick the card, so I'll let you pick the card. Oh, did you have questions? No, go for it. Go for it. Card.
I can relate to Jane, I guess. Just not so long ago, I had a realization that consciousness was not personal, and that absolutely devastated me. You know, I was walking around for days, just shattered.
Devastated the man.
Yeah, that it wasn't personal. So all those old beliefs and everything just dropped away.
Wow.
Yeah.
How
so
amazing.
I can relate to that. That's it from me.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, that's home. That's the freedom. When the only freedom, as Bob was saying, is the freedom from belief. And whatever the belief is saying, I'm great, or I'm small, or I'm unworthy, or I'm whatever, the freedom from belief of me being anything, or anything being anything, now the life comes back to itself and becomes a mystery that is unraveling in miraculous ways. And it's just, wow. Now,
Sure is.
I'll follow Dean's suggestion.
I have a question.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
With following on from that, where does morality come into the question? If
Yeah.
nothing is nothing and everything is everything?
Wonderful.
Because there does
Morality.
seem to be a tendency towards moral or ethical behavior.
Absolutely.
Not always in gurus, but
No, yeah. Yeah, morality. Isn't it a wonderful invention of the life essence? Everything is done expressed by life. Like there is no doer who invents morality. You could say, oh, you know, but Christian morality or ethics are different to Mormon ethics or whatever. Those are social sort of inventions, but behind social invention is the same life, because that life, it's just one omnipresence, like Julia was saying. It's the same energy expressing through available channels. So if the available channel will be certain group or certain religion or sect or cult in charge, that energy will express through that channel. It may express as abuse, and it may express as ethics. Everything has the same origin because it's non-duality, it's non-dual, it's one. And the way I see morality is a fantastic invention which kind of keeps the society more or less organized. But you can also see, and then again, we don't have Julia now, she often brings up the, you know, like mass shooting, which are well advertised by giving people attention for doing that sort of acts. You know, they're dying for being seen. They don't want, they hate being nothing. So they go and make themselves famous. And their names, their face, everything appears in the news. So that's maybe not necessarily the intention of morality and ethics, and not necessarily the intention of the news channel of warning or advertising people. But that's how mechanical all those programs are. Yeah?
I guess maybe just as I notice whatever's happening in me, there's more tendency to be kind, right? To just be a nicer person.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, in a non-dual description where nothing is nothing and everything is everything and it's all the same, I notice a greater tendency towards a certain end of the spectrum.
That's right.
Which is
natural.
Positive?
Natural. It's natural. I love how Bob explains it.
So it's natural.
Yes.
Can you explain it, Bob?
Yeah, like the way you explain it. You know, when you don't need to get anything from anyone. Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit. It's social, it seems. You want to say it or no?
Yeah, Bob will say it better.
You want? Yeah.
Why can't anybody else say it?
Okay. He doesn't want to say it.
Well, it just seems. I mean, it's all a bit of a story, but it seems here that when there is more of a resting in this, that the behaviour is more pro-social because there's not as much lizzing happening, as much protection of this non-existent me, because all that energy isn't there. It seems like there's more space to be aware of maybe what else needs to be done.
Yeah,
it seems more loving here, anyway.
And I think the less that you're, like you were saying, the less that you're caught up in the narration, and you know the more energy is given to understanding. Other people are also caught up in a narration, so you know that leaves more room to just live from the heart rather than the head. You know, because when you're living from the heart centre or the presence, you know, there's a natural uprising of compassion and I don't know, you know, sometimes there's a lot of energy comes out too to try and point something to someone. But, you know, I think it all comes from love, as Kat always so beautifully says. You know, it all comes from I don't know, it comes from wanting to point so that they're set free from that conflict too, if you know what I mean. You know, because all conflict arises between this alleged me and the other person, place or thing. So when you see someone else in conflict and you know that they're caught up in the head or caught up in the story, there's a natural... as Bob said, you're either attracted or repelled. So you have a natural attraction to wanting to point so that they're free of that story too. I hope that makes sense.
The way Bob says it, I'll just quickly point it because it's such a beautiful, he's got this really shooting liners, one-liners. He says, once you see through that there is only one. There is nobody who is superior to you, and there is nobody who is inferior to you. So what would you ever want from another person? Would you need to conquer them, steal something, kill and lie? If they are all the same, if there is no superiority, inferiority, that naturally puts you in a place of relaxed, happy state. And happy people share happiness. Unhappy, miserable people, well, you know, they say misery loves the company. So they will, if they are already contracted, they are already in pain, their perception is affected by the suffering. So they project more suffering, they project more fear, they defend themselves from the fear. But once you arrive in the natural state, like the cat, she just shown up here, she is, both our cats, they really don't have any stressors here. So they're naturally benevolent, happy to be, pairing. And it's just, of course, in nature, there are situations when they have to run away from danger. Then you don't expect to be compassionate and feed, like some of the Zen stories. Oh, he was so compassionate. He fed his body to the tiger because the tiger was hungry. Beautiful story, huh? But in nature, that body has an instinct to survive. So there will be situations when you won't be able to afford compassion. You know, the war, the bombing, fight, flight effect. But if the situation is comfortable, that there is no priorities in that inflamed sort of fight, flight response, natural benevolence is a natural state. The happy natural state is a natural state of joy is natural. Andy,
Hey, it's interesting that the words ethics and morality are quite different words. Morality comes from morales, which means following patterns of like a moral code and habits. So and that's where we get this beautiful quote by. And it comes from thought, right? So that lovely quote that you often use, Bob, of nothing, the Shakespeare quote, nothing good or bad. Yeah. So that's morality. That's morality. But ethics, when you think of it, comes from ethikos, meaning character. Now, character, your true character, you know what we're talking about, non-duality, right? Is your true nature, which is loving presence awareness. That's it. So in that, you know, say a guru's misbehaving or a shooter or they're just not in their true nature.
That's right.
You know, it's very simple. You know, anyone who's doing the sort of not in the Dharma of the universe, you know, and Dharma goes way before Buddhism. And if you're in the Dharma of your true nature, in the flow of the universe, you're beyond good and bad. There's no, you're not in morality. And there's a lovely quote of that I know. Kavisha's got a song for this of this. Yeah, the Rumi quote. Yeah, yeah, and that sort of captures that thing. When you're in your true nature, you're in a different field where you're actually not in morality, although you know you go to another country and you follow the laws there, you know, so you don't want to be disrespectful, but in your heart you're actually in a different place. You're not in morality, you're in the ethics of the universe, in a much deeper place of your true nature.
In that unborn Buddha mind.
Yeah. Original mind, if you like, yeah.
The no mind.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sample of that song or no?
Oh, okay.
Go on, do the song.
I love to. It's beyond ideas of right doing, beyond ideas of wrongdoing. There's a field, a beautiful field. I'll meet you there.
We're going to get all our voices ready.
That's a bit. Da, 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 da. ideas of right doing, beyond ideas of wrongdoing, there is a field, a beautiful field. I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there. Beyond ideas of right doing, beyond ideas of wrongdoing, there is a field, a beautiful field. I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there. Beyond ideas of right doing, beyond ideas of wrongdoing, there is a field, a beautiful field. I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there.
Yes. Thank you. And we have a comment from. That's an old comment. JB says that's beautiful cat, and Bradley says Bob is definitely in form today. And Jyoti says one way to explain this would be if no one is doing anything, including myself, blame and guilt drops. Yeah, those
That's
are the
right.
concepts.
Beautifully
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, beautiful. And Julia says, when the me is seen as a fiction, self-centered actions taken for its benefit can fall away too. And Bradley, compassion is no longer a concept; it's an activity now. Once we see the so-called other is caught in their own thought story. Yeah, it's a natural arising, isn't it? Yeah, and with animals too. I mean, how many people will have a story about the dog sensing their sadness and coming and licking their face? Donna says, feel to do nothing unless asked or moved to do so, and usually through the sense of compassion. Otherwise, the world is a circus and quite a show and a merry-go-round. I don't care to get on anymore. Love being alone equals all one. Beautiful. And Donna also added, even Hitler is that. Yeah, he's just a thought right now, but yeah, even in a form, absolutely. And Jacqueline says, beautiful songs. I love the chords. And we have 10 minutes to go. That's the Tibetan bowl saying. And I can pick the card, as or Bob can pick the card.
Did your question get answered? But do you still have a question?
It's more of
Because
a
it comes
curiosity.
up all the time. Yeah, it's a good one to explore.
You want to
Is
have
anything
you need the
else?
speaker. You need
I was just
Are people familiar with Jim Newman? Are people familiar with? Yeah. Jim Newman is quite a, I don't know how you'd say it, non-dual but very radical almost, and there's no point to anything, nothing's happening, it doesn't matter. people who are nihilistic could latch onto him and go that way, but he isn't. He's just like nothing's happening. But so I'm just curious about why this natural compassion and loving presence.
Because it's the nature.
Yeah.
Actually.
How that joins up with a true non-dual understanding. Because it seems like a preference.
Because the only way to know is to look
Yeah.
directly.
I noticed the goodness, the lovingness is here, right?
What comes up more here now is that you are me. So when I'm walking around,
Probably have to have the
Yes, you need the
microphone.
mic.
Yeah.
Love the microphone.
yeah, there's a preference to not have a microphone. I just notice it comes up more that everyone is me, and then there's a lot of love, I guess, and a lot less. There seems to be less irritation and less need to alter, modify, or correct, as Bob would say, other representations. But what Bob would always say is that can only be kind of known directly in the now. But years and years ago, we used to go around a lot with those questions because initially it seemed amoral and perhaps heartless. And we all know, if we know much about teachers, that there are some who, if we're going to label, have caused a lot of suffering. So, so it's interesting to explore.
Not in their true nature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, that was all.
I know.
That was all.
I just wanted to
I had
be
no
a
song.
I'm going to be a microphone stand for you. For a change.
Just for the sake of it, backwards and forward, I'm Irish and my family loves banter and discussion. And what you said there was, I feel like you are all me, and the tendency is to love. That then could be interpreted as me loving myself.
What a show.
So, but then is that egotistical? Am I loving you because you're me?
Yourself, not
Yeah.
the me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think when questions arise, especially when I was first here, when questions arose, they were arising from the identification with the me. And so Who Wants to Know was a pointer that was bandied around then, and that really helps me when I have any question about, or have had any question about truth or morality, or to bring it back to who wants to know. Is it just a little tricky thing of the mind trying to find an answer again, and there's no answers in the mind.
Only questions.
Yes, so there is a comment here from Bradley who says morality according to who? It's just corresponding to what Jane was just saying. According to who is given the power to split into right or wrong. This would include the personal thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Makes it simple.
Good
Everything.
segue.
Yeah. Everything that arises is just what arises.
Mm. And that tricky little mind, it's, actually there's no mind, it's the quickie little narration, really. It's just the habit of narration.
Yeah.
That's what it is. There is no mind, actually. It's just a narration on what is. And it can only work in those parameters. So it's going, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's like, hang on, I'll just get in from this way, or I'll get in from that way, or I'll just go over the top or underneath, or, and but it's all just it's all just a narration on what is, and trying to find an answer to a question, and that's what it does very well.
Yeah.
But it's not non-duality.
Yeah, it's the tendency, even when you see, every time you ask the question why, how that question why invites the story. So it invites you to leave the heart, the direct experience of that beautiful compassion, and go back to the head and create a story. Why is it there? Why is it not there? Should it be there? What does it mean? Where is it coming? Like really every question why is the invitation for the mind. And I say we have another comment. Should we not question anything as question come from the mind? We should not question anything. But the questioning will arise.
Sure will.
Yes, and when the questioning arises, it arises from the different place. When the questioning arises from beyond that storytelling, entertainment facility, you can see the mind, how it operates from beyond the mind. That is the true value of questioning, because that type of questioning, oh, why is the sky blue? Why is the green grass? Why are human 2 legs? Why this? See how, and there is nothing wrong. I mean, our capacity to tell the stories and join through the stories, create the big societies through the stories, find collective identity. We are all Aussies, or we are all whatever we are. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful capacity. But then, like Joseph was saying, suddenly you identify as you have kind of mixed gender sort of this, and you are misunderstood, and you are neglected, and you are disrespected, and you can't go to this toilet and that, and the drama starts. Seeing the story, seeing the tendency to create the story, and enjoying it fully without being bound by it, without being really inside the story, without imagining yourself to be a character in the story. That's the freedom from belief. Freedom from belief in anything and everything. It is not a freedom from appreciating everything. You're still free to appreciate it fully. That's the true freedom. And I love that answer, says Jacqueline.
Thank you. I was just thinking or feeling in silence when you're on your heart, it's very hard to think of a question.
Yes.
That's all I want to say.
That's it.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Oh, you were going.
No.
No,
I was going to say the same thing.
No, you can say it again if you want. You're
I'd just like to take an opposite approach. I've just returned from a sort of a camping trip with my wife, and at times it was very good fun, and out in the middle of the desert, very tranquil. Then we'd latch on to an idea. And this would lead to the situation where there was an argument. And like the character of Hamlet said, it was a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury. And it would lead to a screaming match of 2 idiots. And then in the morning, it would all dissolve. Leave not a rack behind. Every now and then a little barb would arise, and a sort of common sense would say, no, don't go there. But it was quite a comedy, but it could easily become a tragedy, because I'm sure we exceeded boundaries of decency that we both thought were beyond, our limit. But we established new limits.
As you do.
And so it all just dissolves.
Would you go again? Would you go again?
For the camping?
Would you go camping again?
Who knows?
Yeah, with a few modifications.
Not with your wife.
So it really says, that this is just a comedy of errors.
Yeah,
Really?
this is a play.
Comedy of errors, yeah.
Yeah, one particular school of human development looks at this as a play. It's a play going on.
Play of consciousness.
Yeah. That's about all I have to say.
Speaking of dissolving, my thoughts have consequently dissolved.
Okay, I have one more comment from Ram here, and he says questions should be encouraged in the beginning. No use saying who's asking the question to a beginner. After certain points, the futility of endless questioning will dawn on the seeker, or the guru will point it out. Yeah, that's a good point. That's usually how it happens. Not that there is any should involved and anyone follows any rules, but that's a good description, Ram, yes. Usually the questions initially are encouraged because it seems like the mind at some points needs to be exhausted with trying to inquire, and once the questions keep repeating and rolling, yeah, that's the time to ask, is there anyone there? So yes, thank you for the description, and I think we are right on the clock.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you everyone.
Thanks everyone.